Okay, everyone, welcome. We're actually just going to do a quick preview. I'm trying something a little different now with my videos. I'm going to try to put my finished painting up first before we start. This way you kind of see the finished product of the painting that we're doing beforehand. You might be able to do a quick screen capture with your phone or your computer so that you can work from this actual picture. It's a beautiful house along the Sandy Hook beaches in New Jersey, at the New Jersey shore. This painting is in the light painting. We're painting into the light, so the sunlight is actually in front of us. So we're looking into the sunlight, and therefore you're getting a nice dark, beautiful rich darks of colors with a nice dark shadow along the front of this house here. And this is actually the back of the house. And so you'll see that dark shadow here. We're also working from a photograph. You'll see that in just a second. So that's basically the finished painting. We wanted to make sure the things we capture, the most important things is the darks of this, tonal values of this house, because the light is behind us. So you're seeing dark shadows here. So we're keeping this really dark, the building, the house and the garage, the dark shadow in front. And then beyond that, you're seeing the bright sunlit coastline, the water. We want to keep that beautiful bright looking stripe of water along here. We're seeing that in the photograph as well. And those are the main key elements. And then just having a nice bright light sky, simple sky of just cerulean blue and raw sienna. So this is the picture before we paint. This is, our finished painting once we're completed. And I just wanted to have that up front so you can see it. Maybe this will be more helpful going forward. Let me know in the comment section if you like this, having the picture here first so that you can look at it first and kind of see the finished painting. And then we'll move through all the normal progressions we do, where we're going to show you the photograph, and then we'll do our drawing and our painting. All right, we'll see you in just a second. Hi everyone, Chris Petri here. Thanks so much for coming by. I'm glad you're here, and we're going to have an interesting time in this video. We're going to actually paint a house along the ocean, and we're going to paint into the light. Into the light meaning the light source, which is the sunlight, the bright sunlight, is going to be behind this house, shining towards us. So what we're actually seeing here is a house that has a lot of dark tonal values. So what we're seeing is really everything in shadow, except for this one side over here of the house. We're going to simplify this picture, and I'm not going to draw in this wall here. But you can see this wall here has a little bit of light on it. So there's a little more shadowing on this back of the house here. But we're going to actually just make the house more simple. So we're not going to draw in this side wall here, or this side of the house. We're just going to do the back of the house and the chimneys and the roof here. There's a small gable roof over here and a garage here. And we're going to do the small bit of distant hills and mountains over here and water. And we're going to do the shadow in front of this house. So this is going to be a fun painting. And what I'm going to do is, this is just, I'm showing you my reference photo, and I have this same photo on my laptop computer across from me to the right, and the picture looks better here in the studio. This light, this very bright light, is bouncing off my phone here on this picture, so you're not getting the real feel for it. Maybe I can lift this up and let me see if I can get okay, that's a little more light, that's better. And if I can lift this up maybe. Okay, everything is zoomed in on my camera to my tabletop, so I don't have my camera on auto zoom, otherwise it would focus in on this. So you can kind of see, maybe I can spin it this way. That's a little better. That's much better. So you can kind of see how there's the bright light from the back of behind the building. So we're looking into the sunlight. And you see the shadow in front of this house right here. That's coming from the sunlight behind. So really, if you look at this picture, the house is very dark and the bright, light of the picture is behind the house and around the sides and in the front. So we're going to capture this in a painting. We'll have fun doing it, and we'll learn the difference maybe between sometimes painting things where the light source is behind us and it's easier to see things. Here, this is a little more challenging, but it's an exciting look, and a lot of great painters paint this style of trying to paint looking into the light so that you have that beautiful shadowing effect in the dark subject matter of that house. It looks dark and there's that bright light behind it. So that's a really cool technique. Let's kind of learn about this a little bit. Let's have fun. We're just going to take, maybe 15, 20 minutes and do a simple rendering of this house here. And I'll zoom my camera back out. Okay, so the first thing we really just simply do is, this painting is more simplistic. It's just really a large subject matter right in the center of the picture for the most part. So we don't really have to worry too much about planning out a lot around the outside of our borders of our painting, but I do like to do that. So let's do that though. Let's kind of get an idea. So about a quarter of the way in is the house. And on this side, the same thing, about a little more than a quarter. About a third of the way across the page. And we can just put house here. And then we can also make a note of how high it is. It's about 3/4 of the way up on the side here. So we could put roof, top, here. And that, we could just approximate there, same thing. Roof, top. And that's pretty good. Okay, so we just did a couple reference marks. That helps us now that we go in and we start drawing. And the bottom of the house is about a little bit above the bottom of the painting, so about here. So I'll make a light pencil line there, just a light pencil line, just to let me know that I'm starting my house about here, and about here lining up with this mark, and we're going to do a contour drawing. What I'll do is I'll start here and do the main structure of the house, and we'll pretty much do it just like we're seeing it here. And this is the gable coming up, and then this, I notice I need more of an angle here. And we have the roof over here, and then the roof goes up here, and it's a little lower than the gable, like that. Like that. And then I'm going to put the chimney over here. There's a chimney here. I'm going to go across, and there's another chimney over here. And again, I'm going to keep it simple. We're not going to get too much detail in this. I might just leave this part here, and I won't put in the other chimney that I see over here, just so we can keep this more simplistic. We don't want to go too crazy with details. And then we go across the bottom of the house, and then on the bottom of the house, we want to capture that there's some bricks on the bottom of the house like this. And there's some steps over here. So I'm just going to make some steps very lightly. And there's a door here. That's the entry door. And then we'll just put a couple windows, one here. And I'm just doing those rectangles for the windows. And just kind of keeping an eye on keeping them in line with they're a little bit lower than the door here. These windows here, and this one is in exact alignment with this one here. So I'm talking out loud just so you kind of can follow what I'm kind of thinking myself out here out loud. And that's the other wall that comes down here. And then over here, there's 2 windows. And they're about a little bit lower than those. Okay, so that's all we really need. We have some windows. Oh, we got to do the garage over here. And we'll put the garage door there. That looks pretty good. The shadow of the house is in front. And it goes this way. That would mean that our light source is over here, a little bit over this way, so we can say that it's like that. Our light source is over this way. And I make a little light insignia. And then we have a small, maybe this is for a weather vane or a something to monitor the weather. And there's a tree over here. Let's do this tree very simply. It's got a great, maybe we'll diminish this a little. We'll make it a little smaller. Okay, so that tree's on quite a bit of an angle. It's next to the ocean. Then we have a little dark area here. Then we have the water line here. Let's make sure to make these parallel lines very definite. So in the picture, there's a dark area of grass here. That's on this land here where the house is. Then there's a definite, really light, bright, white line here, or parallel line here. That's the water. And it's catching the light, so it's very bright, almost as light as the sky. And then across the way here we have the mountains, and we just put those mountains in like that. Same thing over here. There's a dark bit of grass and by the property here where the house is, and then there's that white, bright white strip of water, and then there's a smaller mountain, and then there's a larger mountain over here like this. So here there's 2 mountain ranges, a smaller mountain range here and a larger mountain range here, and then this down here, this must slope down, and it just turns into 1 mountain range down here, a little bit sloping down, and we sort of lose the larger mountain range when we get over to this point. So it disappears somewhere behind the house where we can't see, but that's okay. So again, let's make some lines here for our windows, just so we have a couple marks on our windows for the halfway point. So you're just going to take your windows and make a halfway mark for the middle of the window where the sash is, like that. And the drawing is pretty good. We have the tree over here on the right. We're not going to worry about the tree over here on the left. Maybe we should make a little small tree over here on the left, just so it balances a little bit. We want some balance to the painting. That's where you, as an artist, you're going to, sometimes you're going to add something, or sometimes you're going to delete something out of your paintings. It's up to you. But that's always good to think of that, of sometimes adding things and sometimes deleting things at your own convenience. You definitely want to do that. That'll help you a lot as an artist, as a watercolor artist here. Okay, now we're ready to paint. Before we paint, let's take a break. It's always good to take breaks. I'm a big advocate of taking breaks. At least probably every 15, 20 minutes we should take take a quick break, relax a little bit, maybe do something. I often do errands, or I do some things around the studio that are not specific about this painting. Just maybe I might be working on something else, doing something on my computer, whatever. Take a quick break and then come back, and that's what we'll do. I'll be right back. We'll start the painting. All right, we're picking back up again. We're having a great time here. We're doing a really interesting watercolor painting. We're painting into the light. The light source in this picture that we're painting is behind this house. So this house is looking real dark. We looked at the picture when we first started. We can look at it again just to get a quick preview, and I'm also going to have the finished painting on the beginning of my video so that you can kind of see what the finished product is going to look like before we start. So here's the picture. Let's see if we can zoom in. One more time, we'll zoom in. Okay, that's the painting we're going to go for. We're painting into the light. This house we're looking at is in shadow. The light's behind, and you're getting that beautiful bright background with the light coming towards us, and it leaves that shadow right in front of the house, and then the bright light of the foreground where the grass is on this property, and the beautiful light bouncing off the water in the distance. It's a little hard to see right now, but we'll see it as we paint it. Okay, so we're going to zoom back out again. And just a quick reminder, if you haven't subscribed, please consider. We do these paintings each week, all different interesting style paintings, soup to nuts, the whole enchilada, every style, every technique here on my channel. Also, we're doing all kinds of subject matter, flowers, architecture like this, houses, seascapes. This is kind of a seascape with the ocean in the background here. Gives a real beautiful feeling of the ocean. We do still lifes. We'll paint, cityscapes, landscape, you name it. We do everything here. So it's really worthwhile. And if you hit the notification bell, you'll know right away when the video comes out, and you can watch. And if you like it, you'll try it out in your studio or in your house or on your kitchen table, wherever you like to work. Hey, I'm glad you're here again, and let's get started with our painting. I'm going to go real simple. You see my palette here, and I have other videos on this channel here. You can go back and look at the archives, and I show you how to keep your palette nice and neat and fresh paint. You got to have fresh paint all the time. You want to keep your colors nice and clean. I use a little spray bottle to spray and keep the paints moist. And I keep this in a plastic bag when I'm not using it, and I put it in the fridge. Again, I have other videos on this, so you can check my archives out and you'll see. All right, let's get into it. So we know this is going to be dark, this whole house. So right away, looking at the picture, it's a golden color house with like a grayish blue roof. So we know we're going to need a yellow ochre for the color of the house. So I'm going to put some of that on my palette. And this is another good thing to remember. If you can plan out your colors before you start and you put them in your palette, that's a big help. Not that you always have to go into your palette all the time. You can go straight into your paint and work with your paint without using your palette. But if you at least put your colors in the palette first a little bit, you're going to notice you'll have a better chance of getting the right colors you want to have in your painting. So again, we're using warm and cool everywhere, I always say. So you're going to mix your warm and cool colors all the time throughout your painting. But this is about what we're looking for, the golden color of the house, a little cerulean blue mixed in there, a little bit of purple, and we'll get a nice color. And the trim is going to be darker, so I can go right up to the edge here. The only place, and you can just see I'm placing my paint carefully. I have a number 6 Raphael, brush, Kolinsky Sable hairbrush, natural hairs, round brush, good point, and I just take my time. You can see the bottom of the building is going to be dark, so I can go right over with this color. And I'm going to go with some blue, infuse some cerulean blue here and there. I want to change up the colors all the time. And usually we'll go with some French ultramarine blue, burnt umber. Along the top is usually darker. There's some trim there, so let me make a line. And the same over here. I'll make a line this way, nice and easy, like that. I'll rinse my brush off, clean water. I can always, I grab a tissue and I tap off a little bit of water on my tissue so that I'm not having too much water flooding on my paper. And I'm going to paint over the bottoms of the window, but I'm going to leave the top portions of the window light. And I'll maybe put a little cerulean blue, a little bit there, a little bit of cerulean blue in the window up here, and here too as well. And I make this random. It's always good to make things random if you can, like not make everything predictable. So as I'm doing this, you can see I'm using a little bit of blue here and there, and purple. We'll add some purple up here and some blue up here, and we'll make that mix up here. Purple and blue, cerulean blue and purple. And we're going to keep going. And then over here as I look, it's going to be a little darker on this wall over here, a little darker. So maybe I'll go with some yellow ochre and a little bit of French ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt umber, just to make it a little darker. And that'll give it a little bit of a feeling of that it's changed a little bit of distance. And you can see I changed my brush strokes here. Sometimes I'll go straight down like this. Sometimes I turn the brush this way. Just like that. And I'll a little bit of blue for the tops of the windows. Sometimes you can rinse off your brush, dry it off on the tissue, and you can lift up a little bit of paint. Okay, this over here, this door is darker. So I'll mix up the colors. We can see I'm mixing up the colors. French ultramarine blue, burnt umber. That gives us a good dark. And again, this side of the house is really dark. There's some stairs here. I'll make those cerulean blue maybe. And look at that, we've already got quite a bit completed already. Looks good. Now, let's do that grayish blue, burnt umber, and cerulean blue. We're gonna make the roof dark. Let's make it darker. French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, cerulean blue. That looks a little better. That's all we have to do, is get that darker color mix onto the paper, onto the roof area here. The chimneys are dark on the bottom, and then a little bit darker on top yet. A little more blue, French ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And you can practice this painting numerous times. You could write down the colors maybe. If it helps to write down the colors maybe before, look at the video one time first, write down the colors that I'm using. Leave that by the side of your table that you're working on, or however you're working on your painting, and then you'll sort of have the mixes that I'm using. Or you might have them memorized. Sometimes after a while you kind of memorize colors. I know many of you probably have memorized your colors already. And I'm going to bring a little bit of that gold color, the yellow ochre, down into the ground here, the foreground. Dark color for our garage door here. And I just keep looking back at the photo. Burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, that always gives you a great dark. Like that. Then I'm not going to get too crazy. I think I'm going to use a little bit of brick color, but still mix in the burnt umber and French ultramarine blue. And I'll do the shadows now. So this color here on the base of the house, the brick, I'm going to make that darker. A little bit of purple too. And let's bring that shadow there. And the shadows are always, they look like they flow. The shadows don't really go in a straight line all the time. So I'll make them wavy. And that's really, that's the house. We'll put the trim around the windows. I'll do that quickly and not a lot of fuss with that. I'm going to do that quickly. You can take your time and do it a little more neatly. I'm just trying to get them somewhat. Okay, good. Now, house is complete. Good time for a break. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do the sky in the background and the foreground with the grass. And then we'll do our final touches with the trees here and a few little details. And we'll be 100% good. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, we are back in the studio here. We took a break. Breaks are great. Breaks are key, important, very important. We took a break and now we come back and we see, oh, that's right. When we take a break, we change our water out. I already changed my water in my water bucket, and then I'm going to do a little bit of, I'm going to clean up my palette a little bit. So I'm going to take my palette and just clean up the colors here. This will keep the painting nice and fresh. The colors will be fresh and good looking. We don't want all kinds of muddy, mucky colors everywhere, especially when we go in to do the sky colors. Always a good thing to remember, whenever you're going to do your sky colors, make sure your water's bucket is fresh and clean, the water in there. And also, you want to make sure your palette's clean too. That's always important if you're going to do sky colors, because you want that to be light and clean. The colors, especially like blues and light colors of blue and some golds and things in orange. We'll do a beautiful sky here. Very simple. Let's do a real simple sky. Okay, so the first thing we do for this painting, so not all paintings are the same, obviously. We have to do sky colors differently and approach our sky differently for different paintings. This one, we're going to want to go around this house here so that it doesn't get flooded with water. So let's take our brush with damp, just a little bit of water on it. I've dampened the brush and just make a little line just above the roof. Almost touching the roof, but not quite. Same thing, go around the chimney. Don't touch the chimney, just go around it. Same thing here, go about a thickness of a very, like, just keep a little bit away from the line of the roof. So you're not going to touch the paint of the roof or the chimneys. You're going to go around it very carefully, just on the top. And once you just have to dampen the paper. That's it. Once you dampen the paper like that, the water won't flow on top of your house and go into your house area. That's very important. And a real important thing here too is let this dry. So that's why we took a break here. We did our house, all the darks of our house, and then we took a break for like 20 minutes, or you can use a blow dryer and dry off your house, and then you come in and do your sky wash on top of that. All right, we're ready to go. We're gonna cerulean blue for the sky, for the majority of the sky. Maybe a little bit of French ultramarine in there too. Maybe a touch of burnt umber just to give it a little variety. Tone it down just a touch. And also, I think we'll use some of that. We're going to use raw sienna also. It's almost the same as yellow ochre, just a little bit more transparent. So it's not as chalky looking. So that's better for the sky if we're going to use the raw sienna, which is a golden color. All right. I forgot to do this here. So I'll just put a little bit of water here too. A little bit of a damp brush here. So I dipped my brush in water, cleaned it off, tap on the tissue, damp brush now, and now we go across the top of that there. And that's it. Okay. Now let's do our raw sienna. A little bit of blue mixed in there. So let's do mostly raw sienna for our sky, but let's keep it really light. So let's make our sky really light. So I'm scrubbing in some raw sienna. Right down to the mountains and the water. That looks great. That bright sun, like a sunny summer sky where it's nice and warm looking, the sky. Let's get some of that raw sienna on the ground here too. Down here, so you can go over everything with the raw sienna lightly. Then we go in with our cerulean blue. And I just blend it in. Blend it. This has to be done all at once pretty much. Once I do this, I have to leave it then. I can't keep going over it. So just that's a good thing to remember. Once you do your sky color like this, that one first wash, get the wash on quickly, and then you have to just let it go. You can't do anything else to it because it'll start to make funny looking marks on it. So that's another thing to remember. Watercolor a lot of times is what not to do. So I have a whole list of things what not to do in watercolor, and one of the things not to do is once you get that wash in, that sky wash in, we can't go back in again and start putting in more colors or change anything. We just have to get it in, let it go, let it be the best that it can look just as it is now. If it's a little light, if it's a little dark, no big deal. Better to leave it than go back in there and start trying to fuss with it, because then we get funny looking marks and it ruins the beautiful wash. And you can also take a tissue if you want and blot up a touch of paint. That you can do just to give it a little kind of a misty effect. There we go. All right, perfect. We're almost there. Let's take another break. We got to let this all dry. So that's another thing here. Let's let this all dry. 10-15 minutes. You can use a blow dryer too if you want. I'd rather take a break, catch a little bit of a rest, and come back in 10-15 minutes, and we'll be ready to go again. All right, we are back again, and we're checking our painting to see how dry the paper is, and it's getting very dry actually. So that looks really good. That feels good. You can touch the paper, just touch a little bit. You feel it. If it's damp, that's okay. A little damp, but more or less dry. Now we can go in. We're going to start working on the distant mountains and the grass, and the final thing we'll do is the trees here and the branches, because it's best off if everything is 100% dry on this sky wash. If the sky wash is a touch damp, or the paper's a touch damp, that's okay when we're doing our distant mountains and water and grass here in the foreground. But to do the trees, the paper has to be completely dry, or almost 99% dry. All right, so let's get into this here. Distant mountains, that's going to be purple. A touch of burnt umber just to tone it down a little bit. And we can do a little bit of cerulean blue as well. So the shoreline is where the distant hills here. That looks about good. Now, the distant shore here that's closest to us, and that sits right along the shore of the water, that's a little darker. So then all we do is leave this color, and we just add a little more French ultramarine blue to it, make it a little darker, a little more burnt umber, French ultramarine blue. That looks good. And here I'm trying to just make it more straight paint than water. There was a little bit too much water in that. And then what I'll do is I'll go in and get a little bit of olive green. I'll take that olive green and then I'll put it in other sections of my painting just to Okay, the distant hills are complete. Now we're going to make the so I'm mixing up my same colors: French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, a little bit of purple, a little bit of yellow ochre. This is a darker color here, a little French ultramarine blue, a little more of that. And that's here. And that's along this side of the shoreline. Then I'm going to go in and get some burnt umber, olive green. And I just go across with the olive green, maybe a touch of cadmium lemon yellow to make it bright. A little bit of sap green. Then I'll just blend it along there like that. And then it gets darker, like this, with a little bit of the mix there. More of like a grayish mix, and you can see that looks good. That's kind of what it looks like in the picture. You know, brighter greens here. And then it turns a little bit darker in the foreground with some grayish tones. There's a road and some rocks and things like that in the foreground. So that's why I kind of grayed it down in the foreground here. And Artistico Fabriano is showing up in the paper here. And great paper. I use this all the time. Artistico by Fabriano. Great paper. All right, we're at this point, we're just going to let this dry for about 15 minutes. And then we can put in our two trees on either side of this beautiful house here along the shore. It's seen in New Jersey. I took this picture when I was in New Jersey along the coastline. So in the United States, it's a beautiful location. I'll go back again. Maybe we'll do a live painting. I'll do a live painting. I'll bring my camera out to this location. Maybe we'll do that. We'll paint this out live in the near future. All right, let's come right back in about 10 or 15 minutes and we'll finish up. All right, here we go. We're going to finish up. We're going to actually do our trees here on either side. Let's use some burnt umber straight paint. Let's use a little sap green in there. French ultramarine blue, purple. We're sort of just using the repeating colors that we used before. This time it's going to just be a little more hardly zero water mix in there and just straight paint with those different colors. Once I mix it onto my needlepoint brush here, which you can see has an incredibly fine point, I just tap off a little bit of paint, and there we go. So now thicker parts of the branches. That can be the thicker paint. Once you start to get into the really thin parts of the branches, you can add a little more water to it, but I would say definitely try to stick with the straight paint for the most part. And I follow the pencil lines that I put down earlier. Then I'll thin the paint a little bit to get these up here, the thinner branches. Then I can start using I can pick up a little bit of water over here and thin it out a little bit and do a little more faster and the same thing here, a little more water in there. And a little bit of shadowing here. We'll do some shadows on that in a second. So I'm just going to do this one a little quicker. And again, I'm following my pencil lines as much as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect though. If they go off the pencil lines, no big deal. And there we go. And I just fill in a couple of the other kind of really fine small ones, like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Then I'll go in and I'll add a little bit of purple to that, make it a lot more water. Purple, French ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber, and we said the light. And I would really go easy here, not too much. I would do a few like that, and the rest super light, just. And that's about it. This one. And over here too, just a few. And the shadows are darker, closer to the object that the shadows are being derived from. Okay, that's good. I think the only thing we can do here that's going to make it a little bit better is a little bit of cerulean blue on the water. I noticed that just a little bit of cerulean blue on the water here. Just that little bit of blue makes it look more like, it reads like water better here. And a couple of splashes here in the foreground. There's some stones here and some rocks along this in the foreground. So we'll put a little bit of indications of some rocks and things like that. And all right, we're going to let it go here. We're going to say this is complete. We don't want to overdo it. I'm going to peel off the tape and see how it looks. And we'll zoom in so we can kind of see how we got that feel of the light behind. So the house is really dark on this side because the light again is coming from the back and shining on the back of this house. And we're seeing that dark, gorgeous dark shadow here, some shadows on these trees we put in. Overall, it looks really pleasing, really pleasant. I think it's a good painting, and it gives us that great feel of painting into the light. All right, everyone. Hope everyone tries this. Painting into the light's a great way to paint, especially if you're outdoors and you're painting live scenes outside, whether in your sketchbook or just having fun and creating paintings outdoors in plein air. You're going to always find that you'll run into the situation where you're going to be working and the light's going to be in front of you, kind of like, behind your subject matter. So this is a perfect time to practice this. So just another thing you'll have practiced on, so that when you're out in plein air, or even if you're working indoors and you have spotlights and things like that, and you'll have that feel of painting into the light. All right, everyone, we'll see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching and subscribing, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.